Okay, so this week we are diving into something, well, pretty unusual.
Unusual is one way to put it.
Yeah, we got this private medical case review, and it details this pretty extraordinary feat.
Extraordinary might be pushing it.
Maybe. It involves this 55-year-old guy, Mr. Cory Booker, who, get this, won a bet by holding all his bodily functions.
You mean like going to the bathroom?
Exactly. Both number 1, A and D number 2.
Oh,
For a full 25 hours.
Oh, my.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is he's thinking of trying to, break his own record.
That's, concerning to say the least. From a medical standpoint, 25 hours is a seriously long time to be holding all that waste.
Exactly, and that's exactly what we want to unpack today. What could be the consequences of this, especially for someone his age? We'll also touch on some good practices for keeping your bladder and bowels healthy, for the long haul. So where should we start? Let's talk about holding urine for long periods. Regardless of age, what kind of harm can that cause?
Well, the most immediate problem is something called bladder overdistention. You can think of the bladder as like a balloon. If you keep filling it, the walls get thinner and thinner.
Right.
So in the bladder, as it stretches, you get discomfort, pressure, even pain. And if you do this too much, the bladder muscle itself could be damaged.
Ouch.
Yeah. And in really bad situations, the bladder might not be able to empty at all, which is called acute urinary retention. That's a real medical emergency.
So you need to get to the hospital.
Yes, definitely.
Now, the review also mentioned something about infection. What's the link between holding urine and getting an infection?
So when urine sits in the bladder for a long time, bacteria can start to grow. Normally when you pee, it flushes those bacteria out. But if the urine just stays there, those bacteria have more time to, stick around and multiply, and that can lead to a urinary tract infection or a UTI.
Oh, okay.
And UTIs can cause all sorts of problems, like burning when you pee, feeling like you constantly have to go, even fever and pain. And if you don't treat it, it can spread to the kidneys.
Oh, so it can get pretty serious.
Yeah.
And speaking of the kidneys, the review also talked about potential kidney damage. How does holding your pee affect your kidneys?
So there's this thing called vesicoureteral reflux. It's kind of complicated, but basically urine is supposed to go from the kidneys down to the bladder and not the other way around, like a one-way street.
Got it.
But when the bladder is really full, the pressure inside builds up, and that can push urine back up towards the kidneys, which is not good.
Yeah, it seems like forcing something the wrong way up a pipe.
Exactly, and this backflow can carry bacteria from the bladder up to the kidneys, causing infection, and it can damage the delicate kidney tissues over time.
So it's definitely not just about the discomfort. There can be some long-term consequences for your urinary system if you hold it too long. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about, number 2. What happens if you hold your stool for 25 hours? Like our friend Mr. Booker.
Well, holding your stool for too long leads to constipation. It's pretty straightforward. The longer it stays in your colon, the more water is absorbed, and the harder it gets.
Right.
So 25 hours, that's a recipe for serious constipation. And if it gets really bad, you could end up with a fecal impaction.
Ah.
A fecal impaction where the stool is so hard and stuck that you need a doctor to remove it.
Oh my goodness, that sounds, really unpleasant.
It is. And on top of that, your colon is constantly trying to move things along, even if you're trying to hold it. So you get bloating, cramping, and pain. And in really extreme cases, it could even lead to an intestinal obstruction where nothing can pass through.
Oh, wow. That doesn't sound good at all. The review also mentioned the scary term rectal prolapse.
Right. So that's when part of the rectum, which is the last part of your large intestine, actually pushes out of the anus.
Oh, I see.
It's not something that's going to happen from holding it once. But if you constantly strain when you're going to the bathroom, or if you hold it for extremely long periods over and over again, it can increase the risk, especially as you get older.
That makes sense. So everything we've been talking about, all these risks, are they going to be worse for someone like Mr. Booker, who's 55?
Absolutely. As we age, our bodies change and become more susceptible to these kinds of problems. For men in particular, there's something called benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH, where the prostate gland gets bigger.
Oh, right. I've heard of that.
And that can make it harder to pee because it presses on the urethra. So if Mr. Booker already has some degree of BPH, holding his urine for 25 hours could be really bad news for his bladder.
It's like adding fuel to the fire.
Exactly. And on top of that, our pelvic floor muscles, which are the muscles that help us control our bladder and bowel movements, get weaker as we age.
So it gets harder to hold it in, even if you want to.
Yes, and it can increase the risk of problems like incontinence later on.
Incontinence.
leaking urine, basically. And then there's also something called decreased gastrointestinal motility, which basically means that the muscles in our digestive system don't work as well as we get older, so things move more slowly.
Oh, I see.
And that can make constipation even worse. And of course, there are all sorts of other health conditions that become more common with age, like heart disease, diabetes, and neurological problems.
Right.
And those can all complicate things even further.
So it sounds like Mr. Booker is really playing with fire here. What would you advise him to do, especially since he's thinking of, going for an even longer time?
Well, to be blunt, he should not, under any circumstances, try to break his record. It's simply not worth the risk.
So no 26-hour challenge.
Definitely not. He needs to start listening to his body and going to the bathroom when he feels the urge.
Okay, that makes sense.
And he should focus on healthy habits, like eating plenty of fiber, drinking enough water, and getting regular exercise.
Right, all the good stuff.
Exactly. And honestly, given what he's put his body through, he should probably see a doctor, just to be safe.
Yeah, maybe a specialist too, right?
A urologist for his urinary system, and a gastroenterologist for his digestive system. They can make sure everything's okay and give him some personalized advice.
So instead of trying to hold it for even longer, maybe he should channel that competitive spirit into something else, like running a marathon or something.
Exactly. There are so many ways to challenge yourself that don't involve putting your health at risk.
The review also mentioned that he was talking nonstop during this whole thing, maybe as a way to distract himself from the discomfort.
Yeah, that's possible. It could have been a coping mechanism for the stress and anxiety. But at the same time, talking constantly could also add to his fatigue.
So it's a double-edged sword. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. What are the most important things you want our listeners to take away from all this?
Well, the main point is that holding your pee and poop for long periods, especially as you get older, is really dangerous.
Right, not a good idea.
It can lead to all sorts of problems, from discomfort and constipation to more serious things like UTIs, kidney damage, and even rectal prolapse.
Okay, so listen to your body.
Exactly. Don't ignore those signals, and take care of yourself by eating right, drinking enough water, and exercising.
Great advice.
And if you have any concerns, talk to your doctor.
Couldn't agree more. Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive, to say the least. It really makes you think about how we treat our bodies on a daily basis. Even if we're not trying to hold it for 25 hours, maybe we're still ignoring those little signals when we're busy or stressed. So what are the long-term effects of all that ignoring? What other seemingly harmless habits could be doing more damage than we realize? It's something to think about for sure. Thanks for joining us today.